So here's an invoice made in Excel, and I'll show you the reason for doing it with Excel rather than Word. Here is a similar invoice. This is actually one of the templates in Microsoft Word for an invoice. Here's the Excel again. And the reason for doing it with Excel is that we're not going to have to use calculators or Microsoft Word's limited ability to calculate numbers. There's going to be a whole lot less typing if you do it in Excel. So this gets created from here. Here's the Excel document, and let's make this a little bit smaller. This is the so-called print layout view. Here's the way it looks in the normal view. Hard to imagine that's going to turn into an invoice, but here's how it's going to print. And in print layout view, you can see what you're doing as you go along. And let's make this a little bit bigger so it's going to make sense. And this is going to turn into this. So here's how we do it. There are formulas and links built in. I've got formulas and little commands not to show, for example, the rate unless this is filled in. And then once we have this, we'll get a calculation here and here and here. So for example, if the rate is $350 an hour, I'm just going to put a 1 here. Let's say we had something that was a 1-hour task. And look, immediately it fills in all of that. Here's something that's a 2-hour task. Another 2. Another 2. And notice they're accumulating down at the bottom. So with very little typing, you're doing all the math. Nothing happens unless there is a figure that gets typed into the hours column. And as usual with Excel, if you have a wrong number as part of your calculation, let's say this was really supposed to be a 4, as soon as I type the correct number, this will recalculate, so will this, and so will this. Okay? In fact, if they were all 4, it would look like this. Okay. Also, all of these figures are being totaled, in this case, to a summary sheet that I set up. This is a sheet that's just going to keep track of all of the invoices. And it will update every time you have a new invoice. But let's get back here and let's go from scratch, because you also have to have some indication of what you're billing for. You can type these in. Conference, for example. And we could set it up that way and just put the numbers in. But to make that easier, I automated it so that we have a drop-down menu. If I click here, here are the items that sort of made sense for this law firm. And let's say there was a phone conference. And let's say there was also a little bit of travel. And let's say there was a mediation conference. Okay, and then you go put the figures in. And travel was a total of 4 hours. Mediation conference was 5 hours. It was a tough one. And look, these all totaled. They also totaled onto the summary sheet. And let's see how this would print out. We do have print preview, although it's hard to read. Excel also has a preview feature up here on their layout ribbon, and this gives you a PDF version of whatever you have on your screen. And that's how that invoice is going to print out, with with very little work. Now let's go back and look at what happens when you want another invoice. So over here, this is a master invoice, which will not be typed on. This will just be used to generate another invoice again and again. So I'm going to say I want to copy this, and I have a new invoice here. And notice they're all keeping the same title on those tabs. It could say anything. It could say, basic invoice or anything you want. But they will be numbered consecutively, so you'll always know what is the latest one by the number. And I've got it set up so that you're going to always put it next to the summary sheet. So here we are with a new blank invoice. And let's put something in here. We'll say there was some travel. And let's see it happening while we do it. Travel of 2 hours. And, gee, there was some time on the phone. And it was an hour and a half. And something else. Oh, a report maybe had to be written. And that took 2.5 hours. Okay, all of these figures are totaled here, and again, they're accumulating on the summary sheet. And as usual with Excel, if you have a wrong number anywhere, change it. And if your formulas are good, if everything was set up correctly, everything will update, which is not the case if you try to do it with Microsoft Word. You have to recalculate manually again and again with Word, and you can't link things like this. But here's what we have now. And just to see that happen again here, let's put in something for another hour. A whole hour on the phone, imagine that. Okay, and look, we're up to 20 hours. And what happens if you have an unusual item to bill for? Well, I made an area without a drop down, so you can type whatever you need to in there. But the rest of it works like the other rows. Type in a number, everything fills in, all the totals changes here, and you're ready to go. These drop-down items can be changed easily. These are the ones that I chose to make for this document, but they can easily be altered. You can have more of them or less, change the wording, whatever's needed. But at the end of the day, you're going to have your invoice, and it's going to look like this. And these will all be kept in a particular document. This is a workbook. It can be done however you wish. These could all be for one client or one case. Probably smart if you have lots of clients to separate them a little bit. Have one book for everything pertaining to the Miller case or the Miller client, whatever it may be. But this way you're not using save as and possibly not naming things correctly or losing track of what the latest one is. This will keep them all in one place. It will total them all. And I think those are good reasons for doing this in Excel. Hope you like that.